The article I chose is the Independent Institute, and it's titled Freedom of Speech, Information Privacy, and the Troubling Implications of a Right to Stop People from Speaking About You. And then the paper number is number 14, and then I'm going to spell the author's name because I do not know how to pronounce it. So it's Eugenevolokh, and then the date of this article is December 19th, 1999. So basically, the reason that I chose this is because the freedom of speech, it applies to us so much right now. I mean, I think it's interesting, right, that this was written back in 1999, but then that wasn't the only time that the freedom of speech was a big topic of conversation. I mean, all the way back to when the Constitution was written, this was also a huge topic of conversation. And then I think even today, in 2024, this is something that we talk about in so many communications classes, where we're constantly debating, okay, like what is true in the media and what is true in the news, and why should these people be allowed to share this information, and all of those different things. And then you even think about recently where we have elections coming up and we're hoping that candidates are telling the truth, and we're hoping that all of those things are happening, but we just don't know sometimes unless we do the research. So basically what the author was trying to accomplish in writing this article and in his study is he was just going through and talking about how sometimes our initial reaction to freedom of speech or to problems is we want to create even more restrictions and more laws, and then hope that by doing that, that's what then allows us to have more freedom and more truth in our media and in our news sources. But he brought up a really interesting point that our law, the freedom of speech, is a precedent, right? So when we set certain laws, it sets a precedent for the future for what can happen. And so sometimes there's negative consequences that we don't think all the way through when we set something, which is interesting because we never set something with the intent to harm our country, right, or our nation. It's always with the intent that, oh, this is going to make things better, this is going to help. So I just thought that was really interesting that they brought up the point that we need to keep in mind that precedent and how that can change things, even though we're initially trying to help. And then ultimately the conclusion was that sometimes it's just better to allow things to be how they are now, and to allow sometimes people to say hurtful things or untrue things, because then it still allows us to have the ability to share our opinions. Because the more we restrict what people can say about us or about somebody else, that means that we're restricting what we can say about others or about other things that we have opinions on. So I just thought this was so interesting and very applicable to what is going on in today's world with journalists and media and elections, and even personally, right, on social media, all of those things. But then, so for the last two questions, can content analysis be used in all content areas? I would say yes, it can be used in a ton. I mean, this is like a great way to understand studies and different things that are going on, but maybe for more emotional areas, this wouldn't be the best, because I'd say this is more like a tactful way of consolidating and organizing data. And then where do you see this outside of academic journals? Definitely a ton in the corporate world, right? Especially with like marketing, advertising, public relations, where you're really trying to understand people and why they do certain things and doing different studies. This is a great way to organize information that you discover about people, and then from there use it to like move forward in whatever business decisions you're trying to make or those kinds of things. So that is my video.